We open on a security guard, sweat barreling down his forehead. His pupils are dilated and his hands are shaking. He's tired and wants the night to end. He's clearly been through a rough night. As he checks the door lights and the cameras, he sees at one of the doors a yellow chicken-like animatronic staring at him. He quickly shuts the door and checks the camera again. For a second on the camera, we can see a blue rabbit with hollowed-out eyes staring at him, before then cutting to a camera labeled Pirate Cove, the curtain wide open, flapping from a sudden departure. The sign in front says, "It's me." We hear the sound of metal footsteps running as he jumps across the room and shuts the door. Both doors down, he checks the camera to see the power. 15%, dropping fast. He then remembers what he has to do, seeing as he won't make it, and presses record on the phone.
Oh, hello! Hey, wow, day 4. I think you can do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
It then cuts to the 8-bit opening credits showing a man in a yellow rabbit suit luring kids away. However, between kids being lured, it flashes a missing children's poster on the screen, before then cutting to the title card. From there, the movie's pretty similar, with Mike waking up, doing his workout, going to the mall, getting fired from his job at the mall, and then going to the job counselor. Now here's where things get different. The job counselor in this movie is not Steve Raglan. It's just some random man, or woman if you want to be gender inclusive or something like that. Basically, they tell him the best thing to do would be to hand Abby over to Aunt Jane because, well, judging by his track record, he doesn't exactly seem like he should be taking care of a child. Mike, feeling defeated, goes home to see Abby drawing and the babysitter watching TV on the couch, like in the movie. Mike then decides the best thing to do would be to get some sleep, so he goes into his room and he falls asleep. However, this is where things get different again, because the dream sequence in this movie is not in the woods like in the movie. It's at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Mike is at his little brother's birthday party, and his brother is getting all the attention. He is jealous of this for some reason, so he embarrasses Garrett in front of everybody by putting him up front and center with the animatronics, scaring him, and he runs off. Mike's mom scolds him and says to go get Garrett because that wasn't right. So when Mike goes to get him, he can't find him anywhere. Garrett's nowhere to be seen. However, when Mike turns down a hallway looking for Garrett, he sees him being lured into a back room by a man in a yellow rabbit suit. And the door shuts. Mike then is startled awake in his sleep. A cold sweat runs down his forehead. It's clear that this isn't the first time he's had this dream. Suddenly there's a knock on the door. Who could that be? It's 4 a.m. He gets up and walks to the door. Opening it, no one's there. Just a few people leaving early for work, but other than that, nothing. The sun's barely risen. He picks up the newspaper on the front porch and heads inside. Since he's up, he decides to get dressed, getting ready to bring Abby to school. From there, we get the scene with Doug and Aunt Jane in the principal's office discussing what they should do with Abby, and Aunt Jane being Aunt Jane. And then we get the scene with Mike and the teacher, whatever her name was, afterwards, talking and basically saying that it would be good for Mike to get a job. After this, Mike drives home, planning to go get Abby in a few hours. And while he's sitting at the dining room table, he spots the newspaper again, picks it up thinking maybe he can find a job that's hiring. And sure enough, he sees in the paper a security guard ad for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He calls the number on the paper, and the man over the phone says to meet him at the address given to him, so that way they can interview him. Mike agrees and heads off. It then cuts to Mike pulling up to the rundown pizzeria after picking up Abby from school. Mike uses the buzzer on the front door of the pizzeria, but before he can even take his finger off, a man opens the door. The man introduces himself as Steve Ragland. As they walk inside, we as the audience see something that Mike doesn't. Steve weirdly observing Abby. Mike and Steve discuss what Mike will be doing for this job and what his skills are. It's then that they show off the animatronic band to Mike and Abby. And the animatronics, they give Mike the creeps. The way they just stare. Ultimately, Mike gets the job and starts Monday. From there, Mike prepares for his first night. As Mike prepares for his first shift, Abby asks to go with him, thinking it would be fun. However, Mike tells her no, as it would be really dangerous for a child to be there. As he leaves, the babysitter arrives, and as Mike drives to the place, he gets a phone call from Steve, and it's like in the movie, with Steve explaining how Freddy's opened up in the 80s due to the massive success of its pre-dating location, Fredbear's Family Diner. When Mike arrives to the place, he's early. It's 11:30. He decides to explore, thinking he could get himself familiar with the place. He explores and eventually finds the office. The office is small, but has a door on each side, a camera system, and weird buttons linked to the doors. He presses one of the buttons, only for a giant metal reinforced door to come shooting down from the ceiling and hit the ground with a bang. He jumps back in shock and says he won't be touching the doors for the rest of the night. He opens the door and checks the cameras. He sees the animatronics on stage like normal. Then it hits 12 a.m. The lights flicker and a power meter turns on. The power has started to go down. And the phone begins to ring, a pre-recorded message. As Mike presses the answer button and listens to the phone call, he checks through the cameras and sees what he can do.
I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night. I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact, so I know it can be a bit overwhelming, but I'm here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. You'll do fine. So let's just focus on getting you through your first week, okay? Let's see. First, there's an introductory greeting from the company that I'm supposed to read. It's kind of a legal thing, you know. Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Upon discovering that damage or death has occurred, a missing person report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly cleaned and bleached and the carpets have been replaced. Blah, blah, blah. Now, that might sound bad,
However, the phone becomes background noise, and right before the phone guy can mention the animatronics, he hits the hang-up button, thinking he won't need it. Seeing that nothing is happening, he decides to take a short nap. Nothing crazy. Just gonna close his eyes for a little while. However, we see the clock tick by slowly. It then fades to a couple hours later. About 3 in the morning. It shows the camera monitor. It glitches. And then when it comes back, Bonnie is gone from the main stage. Mike then wakes up and sees that his shift is about to end in about an hour. He then checks the camera, only to see Bonnie gone from the main stage. Not knowing where the rabbit animatronic would be, as he can't see him on the cameras, decides to go looking for him. As he explores, though, he finds a backstage closet. In this closet are animatronic heads, an endoskeleton sitting on the table, and a spare Freddy suit, like the exact one on stage. However, among these suits, one is different. A yellow bear slumped over with pieces missing. It looks like Freddy, but it's different. One of the ears is missing, and the accessories are black, but seem to have once been purple, and the yellow fur turning green in some areas due to age. Mike begins to approach the suit as it interests him. However, He stops. He feels something, a certain heaviness. He decides to turn away, thinking this isn't right. And as he walks back into the office, he flips open the cameras to see Bonnie standing in the middle of a janitor's closet, not moving, just standing there. The camera then glitches, and Mike tries to get it to work, as though we hear footsteps. Mike then freezes. The footsteps stop right outside the door. He turns on one of the door lights, only to see Bonnie standing tall in the doorway. He immediately shuts the door out of pure instinct. Mike checks the cameras again, and sees Bonnie walking away down the hall, with heavy metal footsteps. Before Mike can even process what just happened, the clock strikes 6 a.m. He made it. As he walks outside, though, he sees Bonnie is back on the main stage, like he never moved. Mike has no idea what just happened, but ultimately decides to go home, as he needs to be there for Abby. Between nights 1 and 2, nothing much really changes, with Aunt Jane making the plan to break into the pizzeria, and Mike just questioning what's going on here. And another thing is, the waiter in the diner is not Matt Pat, it's Markiplier. Let's just say they could get him for this version. But, yeah, I have a better cameo for Matt Pat in mind. So, let's get on to night 2. As Mike arrives for his second night, he picks up the phone to hear the second night's phone call. As he settles into the office chair, though, he sees Bonnie and Chica starting to move off the main stage. And he just listens to the phone call while checking on Bonnie and Chica to see them both in the dining room. However, when the phone call ends, Mike notices something. On a camera labeled Pirate Cove, an animatronic fox with a pirate hook for a hand has opened the curtain and is peeking its head out. However, seems to retreat a little when Mike checks on it, so decides to check on it consistently. However, thinks it's just going to move like the other animatronics, just around the building. He goes back and forth with the door lights and flipping open the camera to check on Bonnie and Chica. However, the next time he checks Pirate Cove, he sees Foxy has moved even more. Now he's off the stage, with his head tilted to the side. Mike decides to ignore it again, thinking he's just taking his time. It cuts to later in the night, where he's looking at Chica on the cameras, her neck twisted in an unnatural way. She's one camera away from the office. Mike then asks himself, where's Foxy? He checks the Pirate Cove camera, only to see the curtain wide open, flapping from a sudden departure, and hears the sound of metal footsteps. He checks the hallway camera, only to see Foxy sprinting full speed down the hallway. He jumps across the room and shuts the metal door, right on time. Foxy bangs into the metal wall, and then he hears him walk away. Mike checks the camera to see Foxy closing the curtain to Pirate Cove, as if to start the cycle again. He hears the sounds of pots and pans banging in the kitchen and sees Bonnie in a supply closet. All is subtle again. Suddenly, the buzzer rings at the front door, catching Mike off guard. It's a police officer. He checks the clock. It's almost 6 a.m., and also sees the animatronics retreating to the main stage, as if knowing that their time is almost up. Mike checks the front door, and the cop introduces herself as Vanessa. They go inside as Vanessa mentions how Mike looks tired and looks like he could use a drink, and he doesn't know how to use the coffee maker at the place, as it's very old and busted. They talk, and Mike asks, are the animatronics supposed to move at night? Because they've been moving around. One tried running down the hallway. Vanessa laughs and says, look, Mike, if you're starting to see things, you should just find another job. This is clearly not for you. So, Mike leaves the building, and Vanessa tells him to make sure to lock up. He does, and drives home. From there, we get the break-in scene. However, I will change a few things. For example, it's closer to dark, so that way the animatronics can, do their thing at night. Any scene with red eyes, replace it with the black eyes with the white dots, because I just like it more. Oh, and lot more serious and scary. This is a horror movie, after all. And all the kills are basically the same, like with Max getting bit in half. That was pretty cool. And Hank's death with Bonnie. However, Jeff, the main burglar, who gets attacked by Foxy, we're going to change his death a little. And since my idea isn't exactly original, instead done by another rewrite of the FNAF movie, I'm going to let Stag explain. So please, Stag, tell us how Jeff dies.
Footsteps from behind, and as the sun turns, we barely see a blur of Foxy running as the flashlight falls to the ground. And shown only in shadow, we see, against the wall, Foxy cutting the sun open. Violently, his guts spill outward, and as his guts fall onto the ground, we get a fun match cut to clearly later in the day of Mike eating spaghetti.
We then get the scene with Vanessa showing up at Mike's house to tell him about the break-in, and the scene with them at the riverbank with Mike explaining how his brother went missing at Freddy's with a man in a yellow rabbit suit, was never found, and that he needs this job in order to figure out what happened to him. Vanessa seems to know more than she's letting on, but ultimately tells Mike that he should probably get a new job, as the place has been closed since the 90s, and she doesn't think he's going to find anything in there. Mike doesn't want to hear this answer, so he decides not to quit, and goes back for a third night. But Vanessa agrees to watch Abby, as the babysitter is dead! Yeah. Let's just get on to night 3. After Vanessa agrees to watch Abby for Mike while he's at work, Mike shows up for his third night. As he settles into the office chair, things begin to pick up like they did last night, with the animatronics moving even more. Bonnie and Chica constantly jumping around the restaurant, occasionally showing up at the doors, and Foxy constantly trying to make a sprint down the hall. However, every time Mike checks up on the camera at Pirate's Cove, Foxy seems to duck back in a little, as if he doesn't like being watched. Mike decides to consistently check on him. As the night progresses, we get shots of the power meter going down and Foxy peeking out of Pirate's Cove. And Mike seems to be handling everything okay, but we can tell that he's very stressed out. 5:54 a.m., 23% power. He has both doors down due to Bonnie and Chica being there. It's almost over. He'll be okay. And as he begins to relax, knowing it's almost over, a deep laugh echoes throughout the building. Mike feels uneasy. All he can do is stand paralyzed. What was that? He checks the cameras. Bonnie is walking down the hallway, so he hasn't changed. Chica's still at the door. That's normal. Foxy is about to make a run for it, so he's got to be ready for that. But what could have made that sound? He checks the main stage camera. Freddy is gone from the main stage. Something feels wrong about Freddy moving. He checks through the CCTV cameras, trying to find where he is, and then he sees it. 2 glowing eyes in the darkness of the dining room, staring at him. Mike is paralyzed in fear as what he's seeing. He doesn't know how to react. It's dangerous. Something feels wrong about Freddy moving. The same heaviness he felt with the yellow bear on night 1. A couple minutes go by, Mike just paralyzed in fear. The clock strikes 6 a.m. with 17% power left. Cut it pretty close, but still had enough to make it. As Mike arrives home and Vanessa leaves after watching Abby, Mike walks in on Abby drawing, and she's drawing a picture of her with her quote-unquote friends. They're imaginary. And Mike notices something. The kids in the drawings, they look like the kids from the dreams he's been having. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Mike's been having these dreams when he goes home to take his nap. He doesn't have them at the pizzeria, as I just thought that would be kind of stupid, because then the animatronics could get him, but whatever. Mike can't believe what he's seeing, but is snapped back into reality by Abby asking if he's okay. And he says that he is, so he goes to take his nap again. After he sleeps, he gets ready for night 4, not knowing what he's walking into. As Mike walks into the office ready for night 4, the phone begins to ring like normal. He picks it up expecting the same old phone call saying what's new. However, instead hears what the audience saw in the beginning scene. The death of the last security guard.
Oh, hello. Hey, wow, day 4. I know you can do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm going to try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
Mike cannot believe what he just heard, but sees he has no time to dwell on it as the animatronics are starting to move. We get a montage of Mike checking the door lights, closing the doors, and checking the cameras. We also get shots of Foxy peeking his head out of Pirate Cove, and every once in a while, a deep laugh echoes throughout the building, it implying that Freddy has come closer to the office. The clock is getting close to 6 a.m., and Mike is sweating, and his nerves are shot. He's been having a rough night. He has both doors down, and Foxy is about to run. Mike, not knowing what to do, flips open the camera to check on Freddy to see where he is, only to hear a child's laughter behind him. He turns around, and there, sitting in the office behind him, the same slumped-over gold bear suit from the night before. Mike cannot believe what he's seeing. He's paralyzed in fear. Suddenly, the lights go out, doors open, and the golden bear disappears. He ran out of power. As Mike turns to one of the doors, Chica stands in the doorway, blocking the path. We then hear footsteps in the darkness of the other door. Mike is thrown to the ground with great force. He tries to get rid of Freddy's grip, but it's too tight. He's dragged down the hallway. Suddenly his head is filled with multiple images at once. The words, "It's me," a yellow rabbit, Garrett, children crying, the animatronics with black eyes, everything happening, so many things at once. However, among these images, one stands out. The spare Freddy suit in the parts and service room. But it looks different. Two human eyes popping out of the animatronic eyeballs and hanging like tree ornaments. Blood leaking out of the joints onto the table, dripping down into a pool on the floor. However, through the holes in the spare Freddy, just barely, you can get a glimpse of a bloody, torn-up security guard uniform, covered in blood and torn to pieces just like the body inside of the suit. Mike, getting a glimpse of his upcoming fate, tries to break free, but it's no use. Freddy opens the door, and Bonnie and Chica hold open the Freddy Fazbear suit. He looks on the inside, only to see crossbeams and wires and animatronic devices. It's too tight for a human to fit inside without being crushed to death. Mike tries to break free one more time, but it's not enough. Freddy holds his legs in place, and right as he's about to be stuffed, the animatronics drop Mike and begin to walk away with jerky robotic movements, heading back to the main stage. Mike is paralyzed, looking at the spare Freddy suit. He almost died. He fades in and out of consciousness, but right before he passes out, someone opens the door to the backstage room and runs up to him for his aid, before then the film goes black. From there, shocker, it's very similar to the actual movie, with Golden Freddy showing up to get Abby, however he's slumped over instead of standing up, and Mike getting patched up at the police station with Vanessa revealing to him that William Afton is her father and that the missing kids were stuffed into the animatronic suits. However, it's here that Mike notices or gets told that the kids want Abby, because I feel like it would be cooler to have it be like a plot twist in the movie. But another thing, Vanessa tells Mike that William manipulates the kids into thinking that they're living their happiest day when in reality they're not, as a fun callback to the books, and that'll come into play later. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get on to night 5. Mike drives to the pizzeria and gets in through the exact way he did in the original movie, with him having to crawl through the ventilation system and having to get past Freddy and Bonnie. However, things start to get different when Abby is getting or is almost stuffed into that suit that by Chica. Instead of it being some random doll from the books, it looks more like how it's described in the movie novel, having red pigtails, as a fun little callback to Circus Baby from Sister Location. And as Mike and Abby try to escape, the cupcake bites Mike's leg, and Abby runs off and gets chased by Foxy to the ball pit. However, instead of red eyes, it's black eyes with the white dot because it just looks better. And things begin to play out the same with Vanessa saving Abby. However, this is where things get different. As Mike looks for Abby, he hears a little boy's voice call his name. He turns to the archway of the pizzeria, and there, standing in the archway, Garrett. Mike can't believe what he's seeing. It's his brother. But how? Garrett says one thing to him. "He is here, Mike." Garrett then backs into the darkness, and then... enter William Afton in the yellow rabbit suit. It's charred and burned, and even missing one of the ears, or part of one of the ears. But that doesn't stop him from charging at Mike. The scene is pretty similar to how it was in the actual movie, with Afton just destroying Mike. However, I would have Mike put up a pretty good fight, as well as Afton being a little more silent, to show the more silent killer idea. And right as Mike is about to be finished, Vanessa bursts through the front door, pistol in hand, about to shoot. William, seeing that his own daughter is turning on him, takes off the helmet to the Yellow Rabbit suit, revealing Steve Ragland was William Afton the whole time, and tries to calm her and manipulate her like he did with the kids, with a calm voice. However, Vanessa ignores it and shoots him. This is when William Afton lashes out in anger and stabs Vanessa. Her body crumples and she falls to the ground. Afton, regretting what he did, also needs to go finish Mike. He turns around to go finish him, and right as the knife is about to go into Mike, a gold hand stops it. William Afton looks, and there, standing tall, the golden bear that's been slumped over the past few nights. Mike is confused. That thing tried to kill him. What's changed now? Garrett? The yellow bear tilts its head. It seems to have a split personality between a vengeful spirit lashing out at whatever it can, and the brother he once knew. Maybe Garrett in the archway was trying to warn him of the danger. He didn't know. He didn't have time to think about it. William kicked the golden bear to the floor. However, Mike, seeing that his brother was down, he hears his brother whisper to him, "Tell the others what happened." Mike then remembers what Vanessa told him and tells the other animatronics that William took their happiest day. He's the one who took them from everyone they loved. He's the one who killed them. He's the one who's making them suffer. The animatronics then remember what happened on that day and begin to turn on Afton. Afton, seeing his creations are turning away, tries to taunt them like he did in the movie, telling them that they're nothing but wretched, rotten little beasts and that he made them. However, it's no use. The cupcake lunges off of Chica's plate and reveals its razor-sharp teeth as it bites onto the stomach of William Afton's suit. He tries to get it off, but it's too strong. He does eventually tear it off, revealing a giant hole, revealing the mechanical devices in the suit. William, seeing nothing is happening, as the spring locks don't go off here, he laughs.
Nothing but a scratch.
He picks up the helmet to the yellow rabbit and puts it over his head. The eyes light up. He then begins to laugh, mocking the kids, saying how they'll never be able to kill him, and that no matter how many times they try, he will always come back. He laughs and laughs. However, as he laughs maniacally, we hear the sound of metal straining and an almost about to snap sound as we see an inside shot of the suit as blood leaks from William's gunshot wound onto one of the metal spring locks, holding back the animatronic parts. And as William continues to laugh, thinking he's won, the spring locks in the suit fail. William Afton cries out in agony, attempting to pull the head off of the suit, but it's already too late. Blood pools underneath him as he tries to scream, but his screams are muffled due to the sound of metal clanks and crunching. The fur of the yellow rabbit suit goes from a faded, charred yellow to a crimson as blood soaks into the fur. As his screams turn to gargling blood, he collapses, blood pooling underneath him. The animatronics, charred and smoldering from the burning building, grab onto Afton and pull him away as he twitches and spazzes. Suddenly, the building begins to collapse into flames, and Mike and Abby grab Vanessa and walk away, escaping the pizzeria as it collapses in flames, and Afton is dragged away to the back of the pizzeria. After that, things are pretty similar. Vanessa's in a coma, Mike and Abby are trying to return to normal life, and William is now in the safe room. Now, I made a lot of changes to the safe room scene. So, first of all, more blood has soaked into the fur of the yellow rabbit suit to imply he's been there for a while, and a pool of blood is formed underneath him. And the scene really changes when the boy closes the door, because instead of it just cutting to black, we begin to hear a music box. A present box that's blue with purple ribbons slowly opens. And as the music box ends, a black hand reaches over and it cuts to black. We then get a post-credits scene. And instead of it being the one with Corey X Kenshin in the taxi, because I feel like we already saw Corey, so we don't really need to see him again, I got a better idea for a post-credits scene. And since someone made it into an animatic, I'm just going to let it play. So, here it is.
Dang, this place just opened up like last week, and my kids wanted to go here for their birthday. What do you think happened here, detective? Funny you should say, officer. Cause I have a theory.
And that's it. That's my rewrite of the FNAF movie. Thank you everyone for sticking around this long. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. This is probably going to be my last video of 2024, but I plan to upload a lot more in 2025. This video has been a long time in the making, so why don't you leave a like on the video for some support. Now, this is not meant to be better than the actual FNAF movie, but I think it's just as good. But, yeah, that's it. So, like, subscribe, and see you on the flip side, everyone.